It's the final match of the National Football Tournament selection, and the team that wins the game will head to the tournament and further their dreams of becoming professional athletes. In the final moments of the game, Isagi gets the ball from his teammates and is one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Isagi and his team are down 1-0, and this goal would mean that they can send the game into extra time and hopefully win it. However, Isagi remembers that football is not a one-man game. His eyes wander to his teammate, who's in a better position than him, and with the words of his coach in his mind, Isagi decides to pass the ball. His teammate, however, misses. The ball then rebounds to an opposing player, who plays a long pass to the striker, Kida. The boy takes the ball and slams it into the net, giving his team a 2-goal cushion and, more importantly, winning the game. Isagi is devastated. He can't think straight anymore. One more year wasted, being an average player on an average team, and he didn't even make the nationals. He heads back home, head bent toward the ground. The next day, however, Isagi receives a letter from Japan's National Sports Committee offering him a chance at becoming a professional athlete, an invitation to join one of their training facilities. Despite being unsure of his abilities, making him reluctant to go to the facility, Isagi heads there the next day. On the way, he meets Kida, who was also called to the same location. The two acquaint themselves, and Isagi finds Kida to be a really decent person who believes in the true nature of football. Kida is not only a good footballer, but also a great human being. The two head in and find that there are several other players inside, waiting to find out why they were called to this place, and by whom. Looking around, Kida recognizes tons of great center forwards, including Okawa, Ishikari, and the Messi of Aomori. Actually, the whole place is filled with only strikers, which amuses them. Suddenly, a strange man enters the stage before them and introduces himself as Jinpachi Ego, the man who will create a perfect striker from among them, who will bring a World Cup to Japan. Ego explains that this place, where they were all summoned, is the Blue Lock facility, and all 300 of them will compete with each other here for the next few months, and one among them will become the striker who will bring Japan to glory. Every one of the players disagrees with Ego's ideal. Football isn't a one-man game, and scoring goals isn't the only important thing. However, Ego gives examples of all the greatest players, Eric Cantona, Pele, and the Japanese sensation Noah, who have all claimed to be the best and that only they matter. He states their egos make them the best in the world and challenges the players if they have the guts to become someone like them. Isagi is frustrated with his life as an average player and not being able to shine. Moreover, he lacked the ego to take the shot in the game earlier, which cost him a place in the nationals. Upon hearing Ego's words, he's the first to lunge towards Blue Lock. Soon after, almost all the players join in. Isagi is then handed an outfit and is assigned a room in which he must spend the rest of his days at Blue Lock. In the same room, he notices Kida and a few others as well. Each of the players is assigned a number on their outfits. Isagi's number is 299Z. After the players have finished changing their outfits, a huge screen lights up before them, and Ego shows up. Ego explains that based on their abilities, they have all been ranked and labeled on their uniform. They can all play better and improve their ranks based on their progression in Blue Lock. However, there will be tests along the way, and players will be eliminated. Eliminated players will never play for Japan at the national level in their lives, and only the top 5 players will be able to be a part of the upcoming U20 World Cup. Before the news could cause any uproar, a ball appears in the room, and Ego puts them to their very first test. With 136 seconds on the board, Ego tells them to play a game of tag. The last person with the ball by the end of that time will be eliminated from the room. The game begins with the lowest ranking player, Igarashi, who wastes no time getting into it. He has only one thing on his mind, tagging the player closest to his ranking, Isagi. However, Igarashi lacks skills and is unable to tag anyone until he notices a sleeping player, Bachida. Just as he's about to smash the ball into Bachida, the boy gets up and kicks Igarashi. Another player, Kunagami, goes to argue with Bachida for not playing fair, and Igarashi slyly uses this opportunity to tag Kunagami instead. Enraged, Kunagami strikes the ball at Igarashi, but the ball hits Isagi. With 1 minute remaining, Isagi is now and he chases the others around. Isagi too finds it very difficult to tag anyone else, and his chances of a career are slipping away. Suddenly, Igarashi slips. This is the chance that Isagi was waiting for, but suddenly he stops. Something tells him that if he's going to win, he needs to do it properly and eliminate someone of a higher rank than him. Isagi turns around, and out of nowhere, Bachida lunges at him and takes the ball away, charging at Kida. Kida tries to run away, However, instead of shooting, Bachida passes to Isagi. With only a couple of seconds remaining, Isagi's feet move on their own, and he slams the ball into Kira's face.
Before we continue, this video is brought to you by Established Titles. It is an interesting Scottish project based on a historic custom where landowners are referred to as lairds or lords and ladies in English. So what Established Titles does is it allows you to buy at least 1 square foot of dedicated land with a unique plot number on a private estate in Scotland, and it comes with an official certificate with a crest. For every plot of land that's sold, they plant a tree, which preserves the natural landscapes of Scotland. They also work with global charities, One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future to support global reforestation efforts. They have packs for lordship, ladyship, couples pack, so you can both become lord and lady with a single certificate. The cool part is that any anime lover can now officially include the title lord or lady on your credit card, plane ticket, or dating profile. A quick way to become a respectable person, you know, like Lady Historia from AOT. It is an awesome icebreaker to start a conversation and also makes a great last-minute gift. Established Titles is actually running a massive Black Friday sale right now. Plus, if you use the code PANIME, you'll get an additional 10% off. Click on my link below to get your gifts now and help support the channel. Also, the first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link will effectively be next to my plot, within a few minutes of walking distance. Depending on how many of you want to become a lord or lady, we can build our little anime kingdom with pandas.
The round comes to an end. Kira is eliminated. When the buzzer beeps, Kira is outraged. At first, he can't believe that Isagi did such a thing. But then the ego within him starts to show, and he starts boasting that he's a better player than anyone and needed to stay. The elimination was unfair, as the time given was very short, and that this drill has nothing to do with actual football. Ego then shows up to clear the enraged man's misconceptions. He states that the area they are playing in is the same size as a penalty area, and the amount of time given to them is, in fact, the average time that a normal player would get the ball in a regular game. Ego states that Kira was eliminated because of his own incompetencies, and it was not Isagi's fault. Kira marches out of the place, giving Isagi the stink eye. Isagi, having ended the career of a really decent person, feels ecstatic. He asks Bachida why he passed to him at such a moment. Bachida smiles, telling him that he knew he would eliminate Kira. Ego then announces their journey had finally begun in Blue Lock. The 11 players in each of the rooms were now each other's teammates, and also each other's rivals. Elsewhere, Japan's football board is briefed by Anri. She's the one who had proposed the Blue Lock program and really wants Japan to be a dominant footballing force in the world. The board doesn't really approve of the ideas, but they know that if this fails, all the blame will be put on Anri, so they agree. Back at the Blue Lock facility, training finally begins, and Isagi is already overwhelmed. All of his team members exceed him in skills in almost every aspect of the game. He's so average when it comes to his skills compared to the others. The very first night, he can't sleep, thinking about his lack of ambition and skills, and decides to head out for a late-night practice session. Isagi comes across Bachida, who wants to practice with him too, so both of them head to their assigned field. During practice, Isagi once again asks Bachida the actual reason why he passed to him during the first test. And this time, Bachida tells him that just like all the famous players in the world, Messi, Ronaldo, he too has a monster in him that tells him what to do during the game, and it just so happened that the monster told him to pass to Isagi at that moment. Bachida tells Isagi that since he knew he had a monster in him too, he passed the ball, and Isagi did as he predicted, and eliminated Kira. Isagi wonders if he really has a monster in him. Suddenly, an announcement from Ego sends them back to their rooms. Ego says that their rankings have been updated and that they were now ready for the next stage of the tournament. Isagi is now ranked 274. The man then explains that the whole facility is divided into 25 teams, a total of 275 players, after the elimination of one from each of the teams earlier on. If the players perform well and improve their rank, they'll get better facilities at Blue Lock, and the lower-ranked players will have to suffer their consequences. Also, now the teams would be facing an actual game. The games would be played among 5 teams, and each team would be playing against all the other teams. The 2 best teams would be safe from elimination, while the lowest 3 would be removed from the facility, losing the possibility to play for Japan ever again. But among the losing teams, the top scorers would be able to stay. Elsewhere, a really arrogant player named Itachi is being interviewed on his return back to Japan. However, the player seems to have no interest in domestic football and just wants to head back to Europe as soon as possible. After abruptly leaving the interview, Itachi stumbles upon the press conference being held by the Japan Football Association, announcing the Blue Lock facility as its new way of finding the next best striker for Japan and the world. Upon hearing this, Itachi is intrigued and decides to stick around to see what the program leads to. Back in the facility, Team Z is confused as to how they can play as a team since all of them are strikers. They decide to play rock, paper, scissors to decide who gets to play as forward, and Isagi wins the first round, meaning that he'll be the striker in the first game. Their first game is against Team X, and the game will be 45 minutes long. They need to win the game. Upon calculation, if they lost more than one game, they would naturally lose pace with the second spot and would be eliminated, so they had to go into every game to win. The game soon begins, and just as Ego had planned, all the players from Team Z are battling amongst themselves to be the top scorer of the team. They seem to have no interest in winning and are only concerned about scoring their own goals. It's the same for Team X, and almost all the players have swarmed in at one place, battling it out for the ball. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the top player of Team X, Bado, steps up and steals the ball. While all the players are distracted, Bado puts the ball into the net, putting the score to 1-0. And suddenly, Team X gets their act together. They seem to all have an instinctive connection and decide to support Bado. The team plays fluid football, and unlike Team Z, they coordinate their attacks. One by one, Bado and his team members destroy Team Z's defense and end up scoring 5 goals even before the 42-minute mark. Bachida is clearly tired after running his legs out and tells Isagi that all they need is 1 goal to settle their nerves. He explains that he'll make a long pass and Isagi can go ahead and score the goal. Isagi agrees, and straight from kickoff, he makes the run toward the goal. The pass from Bachida is perfect as well, but Bado seems to have read their game and appears in defense right in front of Isagi. Isagi is confused as to what to do. He doesn't want to make a bad pass and lose this good move, nor can he move ahead. He scopes around and sees his teammates Raichi and Kunigami making a run beside him. Raichi is free, and yet Isagi makes the pass instinctively to Kunigami, who scores a wonder goal from a fair distance. The game ends 5-1. Bado tells Isagi that not being able to shoot as a striker makes him pathetic, straight to the poor guy's face. And even Raichi is pissed that Isagi didn't pass to him despite being free. The team continues to argue about the match even after the game, and one of the team members, Chigiri, points out that perhaps Ego isn't really right after all, since he keeps mentioning Messi and Ronaldo, and yet neither of those players has won a World Cup. Isagi interrupts and states that all they need to win games is to turn their chaotic game style, aka 0, into fluid gameplay, 1. Ego appears just then and states that they might be onto something. He explains that individual skills, as well as being an all-rounder, is important when it comes to a game like football. He also announces the results of the other games, where Team V obliterated Team Y 8-0, so they have to pick up their pace fast. In preparation for the next match, Team Z finally decides to get their heads straight and discuss their special abilities so that they can use this to enhance the way they play as a team. While all the other players have one special skill or other, like Raichi has the best shooting skills, Kunigami has the best left-footer mid-range shot, Imamura has great speed and technique, Bachida is a great dribbler of the ball, Isagi has nothing that he can put his finger on. Only he and Chigiri are unable to state their special talent. Kuon tells them that's fine for now, and also explains the new way to play. They will alternate turns playing as the striker and find rhythm in their game. The team then heads to practice. After practice, Isagi heads to get dinner, very late. He meets Kunigami there, who thanks him for passing the ball to him in the game earlier, and also decides to share his steak with him. Turns out that goal scorers get tons of good food based on the number of goals, and Kunigami wanted to give half of the steak to him, since half of his goals credit goes to Isagi as well. The next game soon arrives, and this time, Team Z is pitted against Team Y, led by their main man, Okawa, who's renowned to be a fierce striker. Team Z is well prepared for the game though, and this time, instead of bickering amongst themselves, they pass the ball around. However, Team Y seems to have learned a lesson after their thrashing by Team V and put up a really resilient defensive show. Even after putting all of their abilities to best use, Team Z finds it hard to crack the defense. Suddenly, the ball rolls over to a guy named Nico, who quickly scopes out the area and sends a long ball towards the free Okawa. Team Y had planned this all along, and right when Team Z's defense was stretched, they played the perfect counterattack. Okawa gets the ball and chips it over the keeper to score, getting his team to 1-0 before the break. The second half begins, and Team Y is no longer interested in attacking at all. They pass the ball among themselves to run down the clock. Even after changing tactics and strikers several times, Team Z hasn't been able to break through. Soon, Gagamaru Jin is the striker for Team Z, and Isagi plays a long ball toward him. Even though Isagi had overshot the pass, Jin manages to reach it and get Team Z their first corner. Being their first goal-scoring chance, Team Z gets all their players forward, but Isagi has a really bad feeling about it and races back to his own goal. As the corner comes in and it's sent out of the box towards Nico, Isagi snatches the ball in time and takes a shot. The ball strikes the keeper, but Jin is there to score on the rebound, and Team Z is finally back in the game. Isagi had realized that Nico was the one controlling the game, and if he took care of Nico, Team Y was pretty much useless. Isagi and Nico seem to be the same when it comes to gameplay, and Isagi can judge his every move. The game progresses, and Isagi intercepts almost all of the balls played to Nico. Team Z seems to be the team likely to score next, but Team Y still has a plan up their sleeve. At the final minute, all 10 outfield players of Team Y pace towards the goal in an all-out attack, startling Team Z. Nico leads the attack and quickly makes it to a one-on-one situation with the keeper. But instead of shooting, Nico passes to an open Okawa. The ball, however, is intercepted by Isagi. Isagi knew Nico would do that because before coming into Blue Lock, he would have done the same. Isagi then passes the ball ahead to Bachida and ultimately gets the ball himself and scores an outrageous goal, shattering the hopes and dreams of Team Y. The game is won, and he stands before his vanquished enemies. Having won the game, Team Z enjoys 2 steaks for the 2 goals they had scored and has a good celebration. However, even at night, the thrill of the game has taken all the sleep from Isagi's eyes. He gets up to see the footage from the game and finds Chigiri in the camera room, analyzing the game himself. Chigiri tells Isagi that he has what most players lack, spatial awareness, and that is his special skill. He can evaluate what is going to happen in a game and sniff out a goal before anyone else. Isagi thinks about it, and even though he can't control it, he knows that perhaps Chigiri was right. Isagi then prized the man for his skill, but Chigiri is still adamant that he doesn't want to reveal his skills. Instead, Chigiri tells him about the ACL tear that he had a few years ago, and that coming to Blue Lock was his way of parting ways with the game. He was here to find an excuse to stop playing, since he was scared that he would be injured again. Isagi argues that if Chigiri really wanted to lose, he would have by now, and explains that the boy has a fighting spirit, just like him. But Chigiri ignores him and walks away. Later, during practice, Ego announces the new rankings based on their performance, and Isagi is now the best player among his teammates. He now has to increase his skill and get better at controlling his newfound ability, spatial awareness. Along with their rankings, the latest result from the table is displayed as well, and 4 teams are now tied at second place with 3 points each, while Team V is pulling away with 6 points. Their next game is against Team W, and the whole group sits down after practice to strategize. Normally, Kuon would be the one briefing the plan, but he's in a long shower, so Lemon, their regular goalkeeper, explains the plan as best he can. He seems to know the 2 main players of Team W, Keisuke Wanima and his big brother Junichi Wanima. These 2 are really strong and have great coordination skills. All they had to do was stop the link-up between the brothers, and they could win the game. Kuon arrives just then, and further explains a few more moves that they could perform during the match. This time, they will play with 3 main forwards and rotate every 30 minutes. The next day, Team Z is ready to press on with the game and finally play some really good football against Team W. The 2 lead brothers from Team W start the game really strong and make pass after pass with each other. Chigiri and Isagi are the 2 final center backs, and they easily manage to get past Chigiri. The 2 brothers try to manipulate Chigiri and use his weak ACL to scare him from tackling them, but Isagi comes to the rescue just in time. He would not let them pass. Soon enough, with Isagi's defensive performance and everyone's collective efforts, Kuon scores 3 amazing goals, and heading into halftime, they are up 3-0. Everything seems to be going perfectly, almost too perfectly. The second half begins with Raichi, Bachida, and Kuon at the front, and everything is looking solid. However, the brothers from Team W seem to have dropped to midfield. They quickly steal the ball from Kuon and race past everyone to make the score 3-1. Kuon seems to have lost concentration for just a second. Thinking it just to be a one-time thing, the team resets and begins play. But yet again, Kuon plays an underplayed back pass, and yet again it is intercepted. The brothers score yet again, making the score 3-2. And suddenly, the realization hits. All the goals up until now were scored by Kuon, and all the strategies were made by him. Isagi could suddenly no longer find any passes. His spatial awareness was now useless. The ball is intercepted yet again, and while in defense, Kuon purposely misses a header. The score was now 3-3. He had betrayed them. Isagi's eyes widen, and he confronts his teammate about it. Kuon comes clean. After witnessing their loss against Team X and then barely beating Team Y with just a single goal, he could no longer trust in the team's ability, so he made a deal with Team W to become the top scorer and then get rid of his team. Kuon was no longer their teammate. He was Team W's 12th man. The game suddenly turns on its head. It is now 12 against 10.